All right, let's talk about one of the biggest challenges in AI and data science right now: trust. Seriously, how do you really know that the data you're feeding your models is any good? How can you actually trace its journey from start to finish? Today, we're going to break down the architecture of what's called data provenance. This just nails it, doesn't it? I mean, if you can't follow a piece of data from the moment it was born all the way to its final form, how can you have any real confidence in what it's telling you? It's the absolute core of the problem so many of us are dealing with. And here's where it all usually falls apart. You contribute a label or a sample or maybe a validation. The second it gets accepted, poof, it just vanishes into this giant faceless data lake. The trail goes cold almost right away. And that, right there, leads us straight into what you could call the data trust problem. It's not about how much data we have. We've got tons of it. It's about the quality and our confidence in that data. If we don't have a solid system of record, we're basically building skyscrapers on a foundation of sand. So that's the real question, isn't it? How do we build a system where every single data point comes with its own story? A clear history that we can look at and check out anytime we want. Well, the whole solution starts with a concept that sounds pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. It's called the contribution fingerprint, and it's the bedrock of a data pipeline you can actually trust. Okay, so here's the key idea. The very instant an input gets accepted into the system, doesn't matter if it's a new photo, a label for that photo, or even someone double-checking that label, it gets a permanent, unique ID. Think of it like a birth certificate for that tiny piece of data. And this fingerprint, it becomes an anchor for the data's entire life. It locks in three supercritical things forever: where it came from, every single person or process that ever touched it, and every single thing it turned into along the way. There are just no gaps left in its story. So now that we have these fingerprints for every little contribution, we can start building something bigger. The next step is all about grouping these fingerprinted items together into what we call a data asset. The whole thing is actually a pretty straightforward two-step pipeline. First, all those individual fingerprints get bundled up to become assets. And second, those carefully curated assets are combined to create the final versioned datasets. Let's take a quick look at each one. All right, step one. Just picture thousands of those fingerprinted labels and images all being grouped into one logical unit. That's our asset. Now, this isn't just some random pile. It's curated, it's quality checked, and because every single piece inside has its own fingerprint, the entire asset is completely traceable from top to bottom. Okay, so once we have these really reliable, traceable assets, we're all set for the final step in the whole process: creating a trusted data set that you can actually use to train a model or run some analysis. So in this step, you pick and choose the specific data assets you want. Then those assets get pinned into a manifest. And when we say pinned, think of it like locking them in place. This creates a static, versioned data set. It's basically a snapshot in time that can't be changed, which means you can always go back to this exact version. So why are we going through all this? What's the big payoff for building an architecture like this? Let's talk about the incredible value you get from having total traceability. What you end up with is a dataset that has a perfect, crystal clear record of how it was made. You get a clean lineage, like a clear family tree for your data. You have a full audit trail, which is absolutely critical for things like compliance or just for debugging a model that's gone off the rails. And maybe the most important part, nothing is buried and nothing is just assumed. Every little piece is accounted for. This chart really puts it all into perspective. On the left, you've got the old way, right? Just collected data. Its history is totally buried, you're just assuming its lineage is correct, and the whole thing is opaque. But on the right, you have trusted data. It's fully traceable, it's transparent, and it comes with that full audit trail. It's a huge shift from hoping your data is good enough to knowing it is. So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question to think about with your own projects. Are you working with data that's simply been collected, just kind of thrown into a pile? Or are you building your work on a foundation of data that is verifiably, completely, and truly trusted? Because that difference, well, it's everything.